Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. My name is Ernie Yacub.
And I'm Michael Linton.
And together we are Meme Pro.
That's
Today
me?
we're going... Meme Pro.
That's
You
me.
can see it on
and
our homepage. What's that?
Me and who?
Me and me.
Exactly. Me and me.
Yeah, Michael and Ernie. Yeah. And if you look at the homepage, Blog Talk Radio Open Money, you'll see, wow, there's a photograph of Michael. That is you, isn't it?
This was me. This was a few years ago. Maybe 25 years ago.
How many?
But 25.
25 years ago. What a young man you were.
Wasn't I rather good looking?
Well, I don't know. That's a strange look on your face, like you're trying to figure out what that machine is for in front of you.
No, I knew what the machine was for. What I was trying to figure out is why it took other people so long to work out what the game was.
Uh-huh. What was the game? I mean, the topic of today's thing, I mean, what we're talking about is what it's for, and what the it is: open money, let systems, community currencies, mutual credit. Let's. So what does let's mean?
Well, it means an invitation. It's a request that you consider. Let's do this. Let's do that. It's an enabling. The let system makes it possible for people to do things. So enable, invite, facilitate. Let is just an open invitation.
Let's do?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, essentially it's let's do together.
Yes, you can't do anything in any substantial way entirely on your own, and certainly our society is greatly in need of ways where we can work together rather than simply in our personal interest. The invisible hand of the market is doing us more damage than we can conceive, and we need some changes in the way the markets work. Not a question of taking on the central banks and changing the world that way, but certainly a question of giving ourselves different opportunities, different tracks, different roads to work on, different ways to live. And let's is altogether a different way. Doesn't conflict with conventional money, but it definitely opens out possibilities that are never going to be shown in that frame itself.
So let's is a money.
It's, yes, ultimately it's a social network. It's a way for people to interact with each other. But the key element inside a let system or a community currency that makes it different from a Facebook or any of those simple online services is that our connecting element is the monetary transaction. If you have 500 people in your let system and they are active, then what is happening is that they're buying and selling from each other using the green money, the internal money of that network, the currency of the let system. Not exclusively,
Excuse me,
probably.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Michael, but I don't know if you're hearing it, but I'm hearing ourselves talk.
I'm not getting an over echo. Nope.
You're not. I am. I can hear the previous conversation in my headphones. So I've got a bit of a technical glitch here.
By which you mean the today's conversation? You're getting a short-term echo.
Yes. Yeah. I'm hearing you talk right now about what you were talking about a couple of half a minute or a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. In that case, you may have another page up with Blog Talk Radio on it.
Sorry, I didn't hear that because I was listening to the other. So I'm going to mute myself here.
Oh, well, I don't think that'll help very much. What I think you might want to do is look and see if there's another Blog Talk Radio page open in another browser, just playing the background. That would be 30 seconds or half a minute behind or something like that. Meanwhile, I will make a couple of comments about the reason for LETs. The reason that we got ourselves so busy to begin LET systems was that we were short of money. There was a complete lack of the local economy having the means to process. There was still plenty of people, still plenty of needs, but just no money moving around. A lot of that was because of high central bank rates. They were very high in 82, 83. And mortgages were often running at 18 to 20%. So people were naturally very tight with their money. There was very little that they could consider disposable expenditure. And what we found when we created our own community currency is that a whole bunch of people who were smart enough to take up the option found themselves having a lot more activity in their life. They were more engaged, they had work, and they had places to spend their money. Now, not very deep, not very florid. We still had very few businesses involved, but we had interactions. I think Ernie's back. Do I hear Ernie?
Yes, he is. Sorry for that interruption, but this is me learning this new technology. And it was you were right. It was another browser that was playing.
Okay,
in my head at the same time.
So
I closed it. I got rid of it.
You closed it.
I killed it.
Well done.
Yes, I did. I killed it. Anyway,
Good.
Back to the discussion. You were talking about something or other, and I picked up a little bit, but you go ahead. I'll pick up the thread.
Well, I was just closing a little bit of the narrative that LET systems began because we had no money. And we talked yesterday.
Money. Right.
We talked yesterday about the basis for community currencies, the reasons why they were possible, the reasons why they're sensible, the ways to do it. And what we're talking about today is more what you do with it. What is the particular advantage and benefit, the opportunity?
And what is it that actually what is it you can actually do?
Yeah,
like make money.
Well, you can participate in a more lively economy. At the simplest level, we're short of cash because that's the way cash works. Even in a strong economy in good form, lots of boom going on, there's lots of places, lots of people who are personally finding life a lot more difficult because the structure of the economy, the terms of trade, perhaps they were farmers and cheap food is coming from California and everybody's buying their avocados down there rather than their broccoli up here. So what happens inside the economy is that a lot of us are short of the money. First thing you get going when you have your local currency, your community currency, is you have people to trade with, things to buy, things to sell, and you have, above all, you have the internal money for that community to do so.
Yeah,
Now,
there's spare capacity in the community, i.e. there are a lot of people with skills and knowledge that aren't using them or are stupid job when they're a great homemaker or is really good with children.
Or you could be a contracting carpenter, and there's shortage of work in the area. Or you could be a retailer, and you have shelves full of stock. You've got lots of product, but not enough customers. You could be a theater with empty seats. You could be a sports team that can't raise its fan base. You could be a restaurant that is far too damn quiet, and you want more traffic through there. Otherwise, you're going to have to lay off your staff. You could be an artist who's spent months or years preparing pottery or paintings or sculpture, or you could be a musician. And there's no market for your services because everybody's locked down tight because they're feeling the pinch. Mortgage rates are bad, work prospects are problematic. Maybe you're going to get laid off, maybe you're going to get cut back a bit. Maybe there aren't some profits in your business. Maybe your house price doesn't look as good as it did a few months ago. All these are considerations that tighten people's purses, that keep a lid on their spending, and as we all tighten up, we all lose out. So the tight money economy, that's where you've got most of your feet. We're saying have another economy, add another layer to your opportunities, have a community currency economy where there's really a boom going on all the time. Community currency is very easy to earn. People feel very comfortable. You're not short of this stuff, so you might as well spend it. And in fact, that's the recommendation, that it's a money of transaction, not a store of value money, not principally that. So get it.
And you found that to be so in practice with the original LET system that ran for a few years in the Valley.
Yes, in all circumstances and places. Even if it was only going to run for 3 weeks and involve 14 people, and they only did about $20 worth of trade with each other, that transaction is additional to the dearth of activity that would happen if there isn't a LET system. So we look at it simply that it's an add-on that increases the opportunities and the activity. And certainly in our community, this was very evident. At the peak of its activity, we had 600 accounts and probably 400 people using it quite actively, of which 200 were using it very regularly. Now, they weren't using it hugely. It wasn't more than a few $100s a month for even the more active people. Some people, it was only a few dollars every
month. $100 a month is a fair chunk. I mean, for me, it certainly is when, living on a limited income myself, that a few $100s a month is quite a bit. I mean,
indeed.
It means that a few $100s of activity that I wouldn't have engaged in if because I don't have normal money, conventional money.
That's right. It's and a few hundred is real. That's a significant impact on your economy at a quantitative level. For a lot of people, it was less definite. They would be, $50 every so often. And for them, it was a little bit of icing on their social cake. It was a way to feel relief from the stress of the tight economy. It was an alternative means of handling maybe some babysitting, childcare, maybe a small repair, maybe a Christmas present, maybe a night out at the restaurant when there was no way you could afford it in hard cash. So they were very salient impacts on people's sense of well-being, sense of connection, sense of relationship. And one of the most profound things in the economy that's in recession is the loss of self-esteem that people feel individually. There used to be upstanding, contributing members of society, paying their mortgages, meeting the taxis, sending their kids to school, whatever. It wasn't so much what they were getting that is at the core. It's what they're giving. And if people feel that they're disconnected from the mainstream of society, rejected, discarded, devalued by it, it's profoundly disabling, and it deeply affects their physical health. It affects the general public health of the community.
Well, I mean, I know that for myself, because there are all kinds of people in my community that I would like to buy from. There are causes, good causes in this community that I would like to contribute to, but I just, I don't have the money, and a lot of people don't have the money to do that. And so, yes, we are marginalized in that way. Well, and also, I mean, even if you, as a professional, whatever, carpenter or therapist or whatever, in a recession, when there's nobody coming to your business and you're not bringing home the mortgage payment, that's a dreadful feeling.
And often more than just a feeling, it's a dreadful circumstance. People lose houses. People lose their way of life, and well.
So I mean, and what you're saying is that community currencies, open money systems, can keep an economy, a community economy, vibrant.
That's not just what I'm saying, Ernie. It's what we're saying. We are saying this. You and I. We're both saying.
All right. I know. I kind of fall into this, interviewer kind of mode here. But yeah, you're right. That's what we're saying.
We're saying, use the money. Open your currency system. Get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Okay, please. So doing it. What else? Like homelessness, okay, for instance. That's an issue in just about every community, and what can people do about that with community currencies?
Well, I think there's short-term and there's long-term issues. There's what can you do about it this week, and then there's what can you do about it over the next 2 years. Now, in terms of pure homelessness, we're going to have to change the way we look at the housing inventory. We have to change the way that the affordability of accommodations is determined. Now, at present, of course, everything's about location, location, location. You want to be in the inner city, or you want to be in that prime suburb, or you want to be near where that school catchment area is. And so there's priorities and pressures and premiums. And of course, the competitive market economy strongly supports people in their competition to get ahead, to achieve. And all it does is it marginalizes others. We're scrambling for the, well, I don't know, it's like somebody shouted fire in the theater. Everybody's trampling over everybody else to get out. Well, it's the same in real estate. Real estate has become generally regarded as the safest place to become saving, to benefit from the increasing pressure. So there's a huge amount of the economy goes into the competition for spaces to live. And of course, the more the competition, the higher the rewards for the winners and the greater the loss for the losers. Now, the long-term changes we need in this are some significant alteration in the whole economic context around housing, around construction, around asset values, around incomes. And in the long term, I'm confident that community currencies will dramatically change the context within which homelessness is such a critical problem everywhere in the Western world now. In the short term, we have to look at what one can do for homeless people in in the point-by-point situation. Here's a family.
Right now, it's getting colder. We're moving into winter here in Canada, and it's a month early this year, I might say. It's damn cold out there, and there are homeless people right here in this valley. And
already?
There are in Vancouver and Seattle and everywhere.
Now, in terms of addressing the homelessness at a personal level, the one-on-one, community currencies can do a lot for somebody who's looking for work, that they can make themselves, for instance, an opportunity to work for some contractor, some employer, partly in cash and partly in the community money. That'll make them much more employable. And so the chances for people to get in on the income side are increased if you have community currencies.
Well, and in fact, that person could work for 100% in community currency if all the businesses in the valley were accepting community currencies.
Yes. Well, we've got to look at the sort of graduation of the opportunities here. And the first and simplest is I make myself more effectively employable simply because I'm willing to take at least part of my income in this free-flowing money as opposed to being restricted to compete in the tight stuff. And sure enough, if there's lots and lots of businesses taking the currency and using the money in the community, that gets better and better, more and more available. But of course, if there are a bunch of businesses using it, it's probably because you've done something in your community quite proactive to bring in a stronger community currency than the grassroots started with your neighbors type. You've probably done something like created a community project where the business participation can be used to underwrite some third sector initiative, possibly a homelessness project, possibly the setting up of a hostel or a drop-in center or a network so people can find short-term temporary accommodations in supportive households. Or there can be a lot of possibilities. But the ideal situation, I think, from the startup level for community currencies and for addressing a problem like homelessness is the community way concept. Which I'm putting up on
our chat right now, so that if anybody is listening in, they can go to just have a look at the chat line. And while you're at it, if you have a question or comment or want to join the conversation, drop us a note. Anyway, so you were saying, Michael, starting with the Community Way project.
Yes, the idea behind Community Way is that you're beginning a strong community currency basis on the credentials of local businesses supporting maybe a particular project, maybe a range of projects. They could be supporting educational issues, they could be supporting environmental issues, social justice. They could be simply supporting the local music festival or the fall fair or something. But the businesses get into the support in very much the same way that, well, we're familiar with the Chamber of Commerce holding a raffle where businesses make gift certificates available, and then the general public or the members of the Chamber will buy them from the Chamber. So hard cash goes to the Chamber, and people have the gift certificates, and then they go back to the sponsoring businesses, and there's a great deal of satisfaction and happiness created one time. That is, I get to go to the restaurant once. The restaurant's normal income has been, in a way, diverted to the project that the club, the Rotary Club or the Chamber of Commerce has sold it for. So people are somewhat happy. Something has been achieved. Well, we take that same concept of the business donation to the charity and the conversion into cash, And we keep it as a general ongoing function, because what the business donates is not a gift certificate, it's so many thousand community dollars. And as all the businesses that are involved are accepting and trading in the same community currency, when the general public go to the beneficiary organizations, the groups that have been receiving these donations from the businesses, they can buy the general community dollar and spend it in all of the businesses that are donors rather than just the one that they bought the gift certificate for. Now, as that money returns to the businesses, and it's a critical part of the agreement that each business has control over how much of the community money it accepts in any transaction. So a restaurant might be 50% cash and 50% the community money, whereas a grocery store might be 80% cash and 20% in the community money. And some people may be able to say, oh, look, I'm a carpenter, I'll do this job for you 100% in the community money. These are choices, but no trader in the network is obliged to take 100% community currency. That would be very difficult for costs, for taxes, for the surge and flow of how the money works. But if every business is able to make a donation and then redeem it at a method compatible with their normal business style, what they find out is that the money that moves around is good for business. It brings in customers, it increases their cash flow. And by initiating the program with a charitable donation, they also get all the benefits of being able to support their community and being seen as supporting the community. It's curious,
well,
a lot of businesses do a lot of support.
We actually did this. This isn't just theory. I mean, we actually ran a trial of the Community Way project here in the Comox Valley and this is with smart cards too. So when we're talking about money moving around in the community, it doesn't mean that we're talking about community money, community currencies. We're not talking about pieces of paper.
No,
in this
not
case,
necessarily.
In this case, we're talking about the money, the community money, the Community Way dollars moving around on smart cards, and with
our preference. That's definitely the preference, is to use something with some substance and some expandability, so that your initiative in introducing Community Way not just supports the hunger issue, the homelessness, the food bank, the environmental issue, the specific of that project, but it also creates the persistence of an ongoing community currency. Now that's the most valuable thing, is to get something going. And if it's going to go in a long term, smart cards are about 1,000 times more useful than a piece of paper, no matter how pretty, no matter how colorful, no matter how many children participated in the design of this piece of paper. It's ultimately a bit of a boat anchor. It's a lump. It's an impediment to the expansion of the system. Ties you to a very primitive model.
It's expensive and it's singular. Yesterday on our show, we talked about multi-currencies and how many thousands of currencies there will be. So if you're going to start with a community currency using Community Way as a starter, a fundraising project that kickstarts the development of community currencies in any area, then it's the smartest way to go is with smart cards.
Well, yes, indeed. Smart cards and online transaction clearing, which will quite quickly be available through phones, through SMS messaging, all manner of means of making a transaction, making the payment clear. But you want flexible, expanding systems rather than limited frames. And a paper currency maybe a short-term expedient that makes some sense if it's correctly implemented. And that's very important to get it dead right, because if you get it even slightly wrong, you're truly wasting your time and wasting everybody else's as well. Damaging.
Well, if you use the paper, as an intro, as a marketing project for the system, perhaps in the beginning, but not limiting it to the paper.
Yes, and clearly opening out the multiple frame, the ability to have many currencies in your community rather than asking everybody to subscribe to a single style, a single ethic, a single behavior. People are naturally very resistant to being categorized. And if you were told you could have this great new money, but you had to wear a bright blue hat all the time, or your left trouser leg rolled up or something, people would quite be resistant to being so identified, being clustered together. Oh, I've joined the funny money people, for instance. That's very much the attitude you will get if you try and create a singular system and try and persuade people to join into the same dance, the same game, to sing the same song, dance to the same music, listen to the same program. No,
yes,
we are very different.
Covered this in yesterday's program. This and I think we ought to take
cover it again and again.
Well, for sure, but I think we ought to take a break. And if there are any people listening to this as a podcast, they're listening to blogtalkradio.com/openmoney, and a couple of URLs that might be useful that people might want to check out. The easiest one to remember is lets.net, which has all our websites on there. Specifically about Community Way, though, it's openmoney.org/cw/index.html, and these URLs are on the chat that goes with with the Blog Talk Radio homepage. So you wanted to say something there, Michael? You wanted to add something?
Really, I was just warning listeners that you will hear us repeat many, many times that multiple currencies are effective where singular currencies are ineffective. And do not be dismayed at hearing the same thing many times. That's generally how we come to understand things. Repetition is not a bad deal.
I wonder if we even need to be saying that anymore, because there are multiple currencies all over the world already, and they're going to want to be talking to each other.
Well, you're talking about multiple singular ones.
Yes.
Many singular currencies. What I'm looking for is that wherever there is one currency in your community, there is also the opportunity for 45 others, and perhaps 10 of them have already started. I think there should be many currencies operating. That's the principal point.
Well, of course. And what we want to address with today's show is, what can people do with those currencies? And we talked a little bit about homelessness, various other projects like that. What about the virtual world?
Well, in the virtual world, I think we're talking about two different areas. One of them would be the purely virtual of things like Second Life, EverQuest, Lineage, the multiplayer games, the space of pure fantasy, within which people are now buying and selling their virtual goods. You want a different haircut in your avatar, you want a suit of clothes, you want the ability to do backflips while whistling Dixie. Well, you generally got to buy the software that enables you to do that from somebody who's written it, and they'll sell it to you for the Linton dollar. They'll probably sell it to you for hard cash if you can find them on eBay or somewhere like that. So there is the issue of the opportunity that these virtual worlds create for people to create virtual currencies. In so many of these game spaces, there are tribes, clusters, localizations of some sort. You belong to this sector, you're a member of this clan. Well, why shouldn't that clan have its own internal money so that people can negotiate, trade, work together, rather than, I guess usual, being limited in their transactions by their access to the official currency of that organization, that game. So there are games to play in that region where we're talking about the game of games. On the other hand, there are social networks like obviously Facebook, like LinkedIn, Academy,
MySpace. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. I mean, yeah, certainly the gaming space, but I was thinking of more along the lines of the social networks.
Well, I think it's valuable there to distinguish that although this is taking place in the virtual technology, we use the internet to find each other on Facebook or MySpace or these other social networkings, the networks are intrinsically real. These are real people with real issues doing real things in the real world and using the internet communities as a means of connection and information. Now, that's the community in the virtual world as distinct from the Second Life type affair, which I call the virtual community in the virtual world, a totally virtual space. Now, for Facebook, the real communities, the actions that we all have and are connecting, setting up business arrangements, setting up social arrangements. Well, in that region, community currencies can become a profound cement, augmenter, connector. It can be the glue of these communities. It can be the stickiness of them. It can help perpetuate interactions and transactions which would otherwise just die out because, well, what do people have to offer to each other in places like Facebook? Social connection, hi, nice picture, look at mine, that sort of discussion. Well, the core issue behind social networks seems to be to go one beyond the exchange of these informations. It's to get to some actual interaction. Maybe it's a social interaction. Maybe it's a sexual interaction. Maybe it's an intellectual interaction. Maybe it's a file swapping interaction. Here's some music. Here's a video. Maybe it's a form of consultancy. Can you give me some advice on this? Yes, I can give you some advice. Do you know these people? Yes, I know these people. I can make an introduction to you. Well, the end result of all these introductions and connections is supposedly some form of value received. Something happened because I was able to reach Ernie through Facebook. What happened? Well, if we just swapped hello, how are you, we didn't do much. If, however, out of the connection, I find out that I can sell him my pet dog, or he can paint my house, or we find a way to do business, then that is a profound extension of the social networking. Or maybe it's its realization. We form social networks to have action. Suppose we all go to a party and we all stand around looking at each other and grinning and looking at each other and grinning, and then at the end of the party we sort of put on our hats and coats and leave. Not a great party. You go to a party, though, and you dance, you talk, you swap jokes, whatever it is, you're having some fun. Now, some parties, you go there and you come away with somebody you didn't know before. Well, that's good, I suppose. That's part of the purpose. We meet to connect. We meet to connect, to do things. What are we doing? Well, usually on the internet in these virtual communities, all we're doing is waving at each other and saying, hey, hi, how you doing? What's up in your world? Isn't this great? Gee, we can talk to each other. It reminds me of the Citizens Band radio flurry about 20 years ago, when all of a sudden you could get these radios and talk to other cars on your wave bands, mainly the truckers, Hi, Rubber Ducky, how's the world running? Well, it's not very informative. Now, I know the CB's got going quite well on radar traps, watch out for the fuzz, there's police around the corner, all that sort of thing. Or, it was good for scheduling. Value was found in those networks, but also an enormous amount of meaningless noise, meaningless, trivial, and not even good social. It was interruptive. It was irritating. Well, I see the social networks scrambling and striving to find ways to connect with themselves and each other, and I see a huge amount of wastage. Because even when you're successful...
McClure has just written something about that, right? He's talking about there have been innumerable experiments with virtual currency apps on Facebook, but most of them are still missing the big picture. Used effectively, virtual currency can greatly enhance user engagement. I think he's just touching on it there.
Yes, no, actually, we've got to be careful. That was written by
Susan Wu. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was in David McClure's
Ventures.
Yeah, it was in a post on TechCrunch.
That's right. I'll put up
section was from Susan Wu. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's fascinating what she says. She's talking about virtual currency as though it's a new great sexy advertising tool or business enhancement tool. People will like your business or your offer or your transactions if you can throw in some funny points, some get me a plastic bunny type currency, fairground bullshit. And she talks about this.
They are talking about virtual currency applications on Facebook, which means that they can be used for all kinds of things, and they can be used for mutual credit systems.
Once the big picture is seen, Susan Wu's line is, innumerable experiments of virtual currency apps on Facebook, but most of them are still missing the big picture. Used effectively, virtual currency can greatly enhance user engagement. Well, that's understating it so massively by at least a couple of orders of magnitude.
But it's at the core. But still, it's at the core of Let's.
If it says
it's like
used
connect.
Used effectively, virtual currency doesn't just greatly enhance user engagement. Used effectively, virtual currency is solid money. It's real money. I don't mean it's legal tender. I mean that it works in the virtual community just like cash works in the street. And that's the transition that we need to see people picking up in the virtual communities, a realization that, well, their community is a perfect platform for doing in virtual space what we have been showing people how to do in their real geographic communities for many, many years now. It's a very logical...
That should spill over or spill into their geographic communities. That will spill into their geographic communities.
It'll be very much this opens that and that opens this. It'll be a bit chicken, egg, chicken, egg.
Well, there's an example of that on FreeCycle today, or yesterday. We got a notification from a woman on FreeCycle that inviting us to her network, to her on Facebook. And
yes. The auto lookup system.
Well, sure. However, that is an exact analogy to what will happen when people, because anybody can invite a group of people in their neighborhood through Facebook to use the currency.
Yeah,
create and use the currency. It's the creation that I'm talking about.
And the thing about Facebook that's made them such a rapid growth is their aggressive use of this mining technique, that when somebody signs up on Facebook, they're invited to access, to make their email addresses, the people of their common correspondence, they're invited to make that available to the Facebook system administration so that they can match up existing Facebook accounts who are already in your network and say, hey, these 23 people from your address book are already on Facebook. Well, the aggression of that mining process has been resisted by some, but has been accepted casually by others, and the impact is therefore that Facebook is growing very quickly and cross-linking inside itself, and will continue to do so, probably with increasing speed as higher masses involved. Now, each one of those networks is potentially a community currency.
Right.
Potentially.
So that example that I was citing of, she wrote to the Free Cycle e-group and said, well, I'm sorry, this is what they took my address book and they sent all of you a message to join. However, I thought to myself, well, that's not a bad idea. Why not have a Comox Valley Free Cycle on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
And so some of us would have stayed on, some of us would have got pissed off and left, but in any case, there could be a Comox Valley Free Cycle on Facebook that has a currency, an internal currency to work, just like that. You click and you're in.
Soon. Remember that at this point.
No, I know that, but I'm talking about.
For the point of view of listeners, let us be clear that this is some weeks away, not months and not years. But it is some weeks away yet. We cannot yet open an application on Facebook and readily access an open money service.
Well, for sure, I understand. Right.
But it will not be long before we can do, and it is already possible, obviously, on groups like Facebook, to begin this conversation and to have people consider the possibility of their Facebook networks becoming virtually monetized. And let's be got to be clear about this too. People are, of course, very nervous about excessive monetization. You don't want to monetize your family. You don't want to necessarily monetize your relationship with your neighbor. You want to say, hey, yeah, borrow a cup of sugar, here's your lawnmower, sort of discussions can be very comfortable, whereas if you're saying that cup of sugar will cost you so many points on our value system, it could become problematic. And certainly,
and it will. I mean, some people will do that. Some people will do that, and eventually they'll get tired of it.
Well, it's a self-managing situation insofar as nobody is forced to become part of one of these. It's not mandated from God or the higher government or even local government. So if you don't like it, you don't do it. And if your Facebook or Free Cycle network or your local church congregation introduces the possibility of using the money, that's up to them, and it's up to you whether you take it on or not. So although there will be some anxiety and resistance, and that's reasonable, and that's not to be deprecated, it's neither is it to be glorified. Nobody is inflicted with community currencies. It's a choice you take up when you like it. So take it or leave it. This game is wide open. You can join it if you like, and you can ignore it as you like. So no pressure, just opportunity.
We've got about 10 minutes left of this show, and I thought perhaps we might talk about the purpose of the show itself, and the idea that, what we are hoping with this show is that people will hear these ideas and will propagate them, i.e. as memes.
Well, conversation. The Clue Train Manifesto said that markets are conversations. I think it's also possible that conversations become markets. And we are hoping that people will begin to use this site, this frequent connection. We'll be meeting on this BlogTalkRadio site 4 or 5 times a week to hold conversations on general topics, sometimes on very specific, and to take questions, to engage in conversations with people who actually want to know how to do community currency in their world. Real world, virtual world, design world, who knows? But if we have people with active interest, then this is the place to come and have our discussions. I've got to assure you, there aren't many other places in the community currency world where you can get intelligent conversation. So, everyone, welcome.
You've been all over the place and had these conversations, so you should know. But what I was actually talking about are the simple ideas, the memes, the mutual credit meme.
Yeah.
The commitment, not debt meme.
Which is best followed on the openmoney.editme.com site. That's probably the place where people can most easily enter this conversation with some fairly simple and accessible reading, small site, small set of ideas, and plenty of room for comments and inquiries and feedback. So, a conjunction between openmoney.editme.com and this site, this conversation, would be a very powerful way for people to begin to find out what community money really is for. And that's the conversation.
This site being for the podcasters out there. This site is blogtalkradio.com/openmoney. This is Open Money, and Michael and I are Meme Pro. And you can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us, by the way, at michael@openmoney.org and Ernie@openmoney.org.
And many other places, as you will find if you scan around the internet and Google our names and look up.
Well, Let Systems. Google Let Systems, or just go to lets.net. That's one place that has just about everything on it about open money, Let Systems, community currencies, mutual credit, the ideas that we've been talking about.
And the history. It has the history, which is very interesting, because it's interesting how much anomaly and dispersion there has been around these core, simple ideas. And it's interesting that the erratic blow out and fall away, and you keep coming back to the simple idea. Simple idea is that money is what we say it is, and if we have any quality of accountability and integrity between us, we can support a community currency very readily, very easily, without technical sophistication, without any complex demands on procedures, behavior, administration, whatever. It's very simple, just as easy as an email group. But people don't know that yet, and so the function and purpose of this particular site and this podcast, is to expand that opportunity and accumulate interested, active parties. We're party animals.
What are we going to do? Okay, we've got 5 minutes left. Tomorrow, we're going to do a bit of a weekly wrap-up. This is our first week on Blog Talk Radio. And Colin Stark, the VP for Canadians for Direct Democracy in Vancouver, is going to be on the show with us tomorrow. We've done a previous show with Colin, and so he's going to join us tomorrow. And we're going to talk about what we talked about this week, right? I
think basically, it's Q&A session. And it'll be hopefully some development of the materials we've covered so far, but also we hope it'll take us into areas we haven't touched on yet. That's life. You can't converge, you've got to diverge.
Yeah, maybe even like a digest. We're going to digest it for you.
Oh, well, there you go.
That brings up some
difficult concepts.
Difficult images.
Gannets for fishing in the sea and then regurgitating for their young nestlings. Maybe that's not the image we want to associate too strongly here.
No.
Anyhow.
So here we are. We're winding down. We've got 3 minutes remaining. Any last-minute thoughts before we sign off?
No, not for today, really. Well, I think I'd put in one point, in case people haven't noticed, on Let's.net, the most recent addition to that top page cites a presentation that I made in Seattle at the GNOMEDEX conference in early August. And there is a video of it. There is a slideshow that is using the slides I used in my presentation, and there is a full transcription of what I said. It's a 50-minute video, so I don't expect everybody will be keen to sit down and watch it all, but if you check out the slides and the transcription, you'll be able to see the pieces that might find interesting to watch. And this very much represents the latest state. This is the state of the art in community currencies, the technology, the plans, the designs. And it's upon that presentation that we'll be expanding, particularly our projections for the future, our current plans, our current status, and where we intend to be taking this, particularly in the world of opening the game in areas like Second Life and EverQuest, the game in areas like Facebook and LinkedIn and Academy and other networks of that nature. But ultimately, the game in our own streets, the game in our own communities, the game in our worlds where we have to make a living. And increasingly, as the oil crisis comes upon us and as the climate change forces changes in our living styles, our agriculture, our transportation, we need to have a new game. We need to play a game that's worth playing. And the game of galloping growth, the capitalist Yahoo, get rich quick, what the hell, if I've got more dollars, it's fine, no matter if the planet's being trashed, that game is ending.
So is this program, by the way, Michael. This program is ending. We've got 55 seconds left. So,
well, I think I'll leave you to that 55 seconds. Catch you later, Ernie. It's been fun.
Okay, you're leaving it to me. We should talk about this, your GNOMEDEX presentation next week, maybe. Maybe we do a Blog Talk Radio on GNOMEDEX next week.
That might be a very good thing to do. We'll gnome it. Okay. Good.
Oh, and the other thing I was thinking about was pirates. You know, bag of gold, R.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's something I threw in the last show there that got me to thinking about pirates. But anyway, and bags of gold. It was a bag of gold thing. R.
Well, R. Okay, sir. Your show.
All right. Yeah, we're done. We got 0 seconds. Gone. We're off the air, I think. Maybe we're still going.
That will be a question of disconnect, shut down,
yes,
close
that's what
it
I'm
off.
going to do right now. Got to find my Skype. Where's my Skype? There it is. Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Je hak breekt